What's up everyone, we're back at it again. My name is Brad and welcome back to my channel. Today what I want to do is I want to give you a quick update on some of my plants because something very interesting is happening. I also want to show you one of the new plants that I purchased. So let's get to it. So here is my philodendron Brazil, and as you can see I have it growing up in moss pole, and it is growing quite well, especially after giving it the big chop. It's put on a lot of new leaves, and there's really something pretty interesting that I want to show you what's happening. So as you can see, it has put on all of this growth. The leaves are becoming bigger and bigger, which is what I want it to happen. And it didn't really revert too much to the smaller size after I gave it that top and drop, which is great. But when we look further down, and we can see there's no cutting up here. When we go further down, we see right underneath this leaf here, I'm getting a branch right here, which is pretty interesting because typically what happens is your plant wants to have this apical growth. So it wants to essentially grow in this straight up vine with no kind of offshoot whatsoever. And the reason why it doesn't want to produce any offshoots is because it's doing its best to go higher up in a tree canopy so it can really absorb all of that bright, direct sunlight. If it were to branch out, instead of it going apically up, it will instead go horizontally. And if it goes horizontal, it's not going to capture more sunlight the further it goes up. Instead, it's going to capture roughly the same amount of sunlight as it's going around your moss pole. So I do find it pretty interesting that this philodendron Brazil has decided to give itself a branch. I'm going to monitor that branch, and I'm going to tell you why I'm going to monitor that branch here shortly. One of the reasons why I suspect that it has decided to produce a branch is because it's really getting a lot of energy. So it's getting energy from the sun, as well as it's getting macronutrients from the fertilizer that I am feeding it. So I'm feeding this philodendron Brazil a 3:1:2 NPK ratio fertilizer. I feed it once a week via watering from the moss pole. So water goes down the moss pole, and as it trickles down, these roots that have basically embedded itself into the moss pole, so you can see these roots that have embedded itself, are being fed. And then any water that's left over goes into the soil, because this moss pole, while wet, is also down into the soil as well. And that soil, which is dry, it wants to wick that moisture from the moss pole. So that is also, oh, look at that too. Look how well these roots have embedded itself into the moss pole. But what I was saying is that too is one of the reasons why having a moss pole is great, especially when you are trying to ensure that you're not overwatering. But because I have this in a terracotta pot, I really don't have to worry about overwatering anyway. So the second thing that I want to show you, which I also find interesting, is the fact that I have some branching down here as well. So this is one of my smaller vines that I have climbing up. So again, what happened is this vine, when going straight up, it decided to branch. So let me see if I can show you the branches. So we have one branch that's located here. So this is a branch. We have, is this a third branch? Okay, it's not a third branch. We have a second branch that's located here, right underneath this leaf here. And you can see where the union is right here. Why this is interesting is because with one of the vines, we see that the philodendron Brazil, it looks like it's reverted to a heartleaf philodendron. whereas the other branch of the philodendron Brazil is continuing to have the variegation pattern. So if you look closely, you can see that this leaf is still going to be variegated. You can see the dark green as well as the more light lime yellowish color, and then even lighter green closer to the base of the leaf. Whereas if you look at this leaf that is attached to the moss pole, you'll see that it is essentially dark green all throughout. And we also see no signs of variegation on the stem as well. So you see how this is a nice solid green color? This is giving me an indication that this too is going to be solid green. Whereas if you look at this stem up here, do you see this variegation, how it goes from a dark green to a lighter green color? That gives you an indication that this leaf that's being produced here is also going to have some kind of variegation like that. So I find it fascinating, really fascinating, the fact that not only do I have this single vine, but I also have a vine that split where one of the branches is producing variegation and the other branch is producing leaves that are similar to the heartleaf philodendron. And it is, they're all in the same family. So the heartleaf philodendron, the neon, as well as the Brazilian are all in the same family. So what the polar opposite of this heartleaf looking leaf would be a neon. So kind of similar to this leaf here, only imagine it being all of a yellowish color. So anyway, I find it very, very interesting and I wanted to share that with you. If you like videos like this and want to continue to see more videos about houseplant tips and tricks, please be sure to subscribe to my channel. It's totally free. It would mean a lot. Thank you so much. Now back to the video. So I also want to share a brand new plant that I got, and it's right here. So this is a Monstera Thai Constellation. So I wanted to get this plant because I've seen a lot of people recently getting these plants, and I do like the beautiful marbled variegation pattern of the leaf. So the leaves produce this almost speckling-like mixture of, I'll call it cream and white, with the green leaf being on the backdrop. And then you'll also notice that on the leaves too, you'll have not only a dark green pattern, but you'll also have almost a lighter shade of green that complements that dark green color. So all in all, it's a beautiful leaf. And I wanted to get it. This right here is a baby, and I wanted to start off small because one, the larger ones cost a lot of money, and two, because I always get this rewarding sense when I grow something from a really, really small state to these large monsters. Or you like that too? Do you like to also start off small and grow your leaves to be larger and larger? Because I am, and I do find that fun. Now, this particular Thai constellation is a bit thirsty, and I can tell that it's thirsty because the leaves are starting to curl. And the reason why the curling is occurring is because the Thai constellation is essentially trying to conserve water. Now, if it didn't produce this curling, what would essentially happen is the surface area would be so great such that it allows for water to transpire through the leaves, and before you know it, your plant is all dried up and it's dead. And it's also something that I expected to, because I did want to keep this Thai in a terracotta pot, because as you know, I like to keep my plants in terracotta pots because it allows for less likelihood of overwatering, and it also allows for a lot of oxygen exchange to occur as well. So since I've gotten this, it hasn't produced any new leaves, which is fine because I'm keeping this indoors, unlike my ficus moonshine, which I got at the same time that I can keep outdoors, that's produced a new leaf. So it's looking great. I'm going to give you a close-up shot and just talk about some of the features of this Thai constellation that I really enjoy. So like I said before, this Thai constellation is pretty thirsty, so I'm just going to go ahead and give it some water to help with those curled up leaves. So as it is drinking, let's talk about some of the things that I like about this Thai constellation. So first, I like the speckling that the Thai constellation has. So you can see that, oh, got some water on the leaf. Let me get that off really quickly. So you can see that there is this speckling color that occurs with the dark green color as the backdrop. So that speckling is almost like a, what would you call this green? It's a couple of shades darker than this darker green color, but it is a complementary color to this light green variegation here. And then you also have this cream color that's appearing right here as well. But if you look right here, you see that this cream is really white, which is what I'm expecting to happen on the leaves as they become larger and larger. One of the nice things about the Thai constellation, which is different than an albo, for instance, is that you don't really get the browning of the white that you do with an albo. With an albo, you typically need to amend with silica in order to really preserve that white to prevent it from browning out too early. But with these Thai constellations, I don't think that's going to be the case. And I'm going to water this some more because I have no water coming out of the bottom. As you can see, it's pretty thirsty. So this Thai constellation will get pretty large. I imagine it's going to get just as large as the Monstera that I've shown before, where it has all of the fenestration, but not any of the variegation. So maybe in a couple of years, I'll be able to grow this into a monster as well. But yes, this is my Thai constellation that I absolutely am enjoying so far. And I can't wait to get a leaf soon. I mean, let's see. You can actually see, let's see if I can get this. You can actually see some swelling right here. So I do think that I am going to get a leaf emerging, which is absolutely terrific. Finally, water coming out of the bottom. So I've completely watered this. And hopefully within the next couple of hours, these leaves will start to unfurl for me, or uncurl. Just as a bonus, I want to show you what my Monstera adansonii is starting to look like. It has produced yet another leaf, which is amazing. And just look at that fenestration. Absolutely gorgeous. And while this leaf that I'm holding in my hand is currently bigger, I do expect for this top leaf to catch up. And as you can see, because I have this on a moss pole, it has helped to encourage these leaves to become larger and larger. This was taken from a cutting, and this is just one of the things that I was talking about just having this sense of accomplishment when it comes to really showing off or growing larger and larger plants. I mean, when I first got this, it had a single leaf. It seemed to be on its last leg, so I did a repot, put it on a moss pole. I monitored it pretty carefully, and just look at it now. So it's doing well. It loves being by this window. I love it and just the beautiful growth that it's put on so far. So hopefully I'm going to be able to put this either on a new moss pole or grow this moss pole up taller so it can continue to grow. Because if you look here as well, you'll see that it has started to attach itself onto the moss pole. So, I mean, it's on there. You can see that root right there. Probably could take this strap off, but I'm going to keep it on for now. So, my Monstera adansonii. So that's a quick update about some of the things that are growing inside of my house. Between the Monstera Thai Constellation and the philodendron Brazil, as well as the Monstera adansonii, everything is doing really well so far this growing season. I'm really interested to see whether or not my philodendron Brazil, with the branching, whether or not that reversion is going to actually delete itself and become a philodendron Brazil again, or if it's going to maintain that solid green color that's very similar to the heartleaf philodendron. I'm also interested to see how long is it going to take for my Thai Constellation to grow before I actually start seeing some fenestrations in the leaves. So all in all, again, I'm very happy with what the growth looks like so far. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. I greatly appreciate it, and I'll see you on the next video. Thank you so much for watching.